Hello everyone, and good morning, and welcome to the Backyard Garden. We're going to keep this short and sweet today because I know that everyone is out celebrating with their family. Regardless of how you celebrate or what you celebrate, this is just one of those amazing and beautiful spring days. And it's going to be warm. It's going to be in the 70s today. We can pretend like it's actually warm in spring here. And just get out in your gardens and look around and see the beauty because everything is popping. This might be one of the most magical springs I've ever seen since I was truly gardening, because I got to see what happens when it all gets knocked back and then comes back to life in the spring with all that green growth, all of those beautiful flowers popping, all the beautiful seeds, everything that is happening in the garden. While you're coming on, please be sure to say hi, and if you have any specific questions, ask questions. I also want to celebrate something that some of you may or may not know about yet, but we launched on Tuesday an event, a farm-to-table cooking experience that's going to be held Tuesday, April the 27th, with myself talking gardening, talking about the best use of the seasonal produce available, and my friend Chef Chris Prado teaching us how he's cooking and then cooking a magnificent farm-to-table event. Well, the big celebration of today is that that particular event is already sold out, and it's wonderful and exciting. But stay tuned because these are going to be coming up regularly, and I'm hoping to work with multiple chefs in town and do all kinds of amazing seed to plate cooking and gardening education and events at the at Freedom Harvest Farms. Great. So let's get started back on the backyard garden today. Let's take a tour. It's April, and this garden, if you've been watching these videos, if you've been watching them for a few weeks, a few months, or even an entire year, you've seen the miraculous nature of a garden and your little bit of intervention in it. Let's look around. Okay, coming back over here this way, you've seen a lot of shifts and changes that have happened in this particular garden over here. In this particular area, this garden was started in January of last year. And of course it got knocked back by the freeze like everything else did. You can see there some dead snapdragons that actually didn't make it back, but you can see lots of little things popping back up again from the seeds. And of course you can see all of that Texas sage salvia that I've let reseed and cut back, just growing magnificently. This is going to bring out all of those beautiful red flowers that are going to be great to attract all those hummingbirds and lots of beneficial insects. Now, right after the freeze, I jumped right out here and planted as many of my lettuce, brassica, cabbage, broccoli, all of that stuff that I could get planted in the ground. And now you can see what's happening with that. Do you see that beautiful red Salanova lettuce over there? I'm actually going to harvest some of that today with some beautiful iceberg lettuce and a lovely salad mix that I have made. Put on top of that some of those gorgeous radishes that I've grown this year, some beautiful edible flowers and carrots, and make a gorgeous Easter spring salad. And I'm excited about that, and why I want to bring that up, and why I believe that it's so important to talk about, and why I believe it's so important for us to share those beautiful dishes, is because food is beautiful, and the most beautiful food is the most nutritious food. So be sure that you're planting a variety of colors and things to really draw you and your family in to the greens that we all need to help support our body's health. So you can see here broccoli is popping. All of these Chinese cabbages are doing really well. Back this direction, you can see where I popped in some of these too. They're growing very happily here, growing very fast. It's actually been a bit challenging on this particular area over here to grow anything up the trellis. So a lot of the plants that grow up the trellis haven't done as well, but in this garden, my brassicas are continuing to do really well. Of course, the freeze killed back all of my moonflowers, or knocked back all of my moonflowers, and look at them taking off like crazy, growing everywhere, and I'm about to have the most beautiful moonflowers. Look at this one right here. It actually had a moonflower in February, right before the freeze happened. It had started putting its flowers on, and look at this. It knocked all the way back down, to the dead root. You can see right there where I just cut it off. And look at it, it's growing right back. Now, I do want to remind everyone that this particular plant is poisonous. But I spend a lot of time in my garden, and I spend a lot of time with my animals. And so I'm able to teach my animals not to chew on everything in the garden. And then I'm able to leave those. But I also work very hard at cleaning them up and getting them out of the way and making sure not to put them in places where they could potentially, like with my chickens or even my dog for that matter, chew them up, ingest them when I don't want them to ingest them. Okay, you can see over here some of my cucumbers are really starting to take off. This is a pickling cucumber. It's going to grow up this nice little trellising line. While the soil is soft in your gardens, now's a good time to make sure you're getting out as many of those weeds. Now, I like to leave weeds sometimes, but this is actually a tree, the tallow tree, so I want to pull that out. Another great plant you've heard me talk about many times is the longevity spinach. Now, the longevity spinach has become a very good commodity plant. Lots of people are really enjoying it for their smoothies, their salads. You can make cream spinach out of it. You can use it for anything. This plant also grew back after the freeze. So you can see here that this was all pretty much dead, but there was one transplant or one part of that plant that was able to stay alive in the root system, and now it's starting to take back off again. So this is a very, very, very important green plant to grow in our part of Zone 9B gardening, because it can handle a freeze and it can also handle the summers. It actually loves the summer, so it likes the summer heat. So a great successful plant for either edible landscaping or just simply having a lot of good produce for your family. Now, over here on this side, you can see how this area is just growing all this beautiful green stuff. My bachelor buttons, these are beautiful edible flowers that did live through the freeze and are continuing to grow and starting to begin to put on their flowers. Now, their flowers can be blue or purple. They're actually, I have a nice mixture of different pretty colors. My kale is still doing really well, and I'm actually seeing a lot less aphid problems in this particular garden. My farm garden has a bit more aphid problems, but they seem to be sorting themselves out really well this year. And that's making me feel really excited to know that there is absolutely opportunity for nature to heal itself and to work on things itself. Now look at my beautiful cilantro that I let go to bloom. Now remember, I told you that once cilantro goes to bloom, it's no longer cilantro anymore. It's now coriander. Coriander has a different flavor, but you can still use the leaves of the coriander if you choose. And then of course the seeds are great for recipes once you let them dry out. And then once this happens, the seeds drop down on the ground. You will be growing cilantro every winter all year long for the rest of however long you let that plant keep growing there. So lots and lots of reseeding going on there as well. Now coming back this direction, I am just in love with what's happening over here. Look at the flowers, look at the amazingness of this. Look at my pretty dill. Now this is the part you're gonna wanna use more than anything else for your cucumbers. When you're pickling your dills, look at these beautiful yellow flowers. They're gonna turn to seeds. This is all the stuff that is the best suited for using in those pickling recipes. Now the leaves of this, a lot of people don't often know what to do with all the dill that they grow, and we grow a lot of dill because we use it, as I've reminded you guys, as a cover crop basically, and it helps out during the season with the brassicas as well. So a lot of times we have mass quantities of dill, and thanks to the freeze, we do not have a lot of powdery mildew this year. And usually once we've not had a good freeze, most of our dill, even our zinnias, lots of our squash, cucumbers, and all that are dealing with a lot of powdery mildew. Some things that can help with the powdery mildew are actually having a little bit more potassium, a little bit less nitrogen in your soil. Other things to keep in mind about using these leaves, I actually like to trim some of the young, fresh dill off down here and put it into my salad mix because it adds that little pop of dill, and it is phenomenal. Of course, if you make some homemade ranch like Joe does, then you've got this delicious flavor of homemade ranch, a little spark of fresh dill, and it makes your salad just pop every time you put it on the plate. Yeah.
I'm just going to second what you just said. You'll bring in a bag of salad mix, and I'm going to prepare it for dinner, and I'll see a little sprig of cilantro or a little
It's
sprig of
parsley,
dill.
because a lot of people don't like cilantro, so I don't like to mix cilantro in with things.
Baby,
but
it's
parsley.
Easter Sunday. I'm not going to argue with you. Whatever you say.
No, it's
But
parsley.
but I'll even shred that dill up a little bit and then just put it in the salad. Let it get lost in there, and when you are eating it, there's like a of
Yep.
freshness.
It's freshness.
Fresh dill.
I even
It's not
actually
overpowering.
grabbed a handful because I make a smoothie, a big, nice smoothie every day. And luckily I can walk out to my backyard garden and pull out beets, cut back kale, spinach, whatever I want. And even throw in lettuce when I've got kind of an old salad mix. It's kind of at the end of its prime.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other day we had some old salad mix that was the end of this prime. I took it, I grabbed it, I threw it in my blender, zipped it up into my smoothie, forgetting that there was a little bit of dill in there. And when I drank it, at first I was like, oh, dill, And then after a couple more sips, I was like, oh, this dill is actually really like, there's something interesting. And so sometimes I think that we just naturally connect dill, salty garlic dill, pickle kind of concept. But dill is so fresh and vibrant. Consider using it in a lot of different places. I also love dill in potatoes. I think dill is a great addition to a mashed potato. There's a Swedish potato with a dill in it. Some really, really good recipes.
That's what in my little thought with.
Oh, did I interrupt you?
No, it's fine. Please. It's that time of year when I do make the homemade ranch. I can put the dried dill aside and use nothing but fresh dill in there, and it livens up those dressings and anything you use it in.
Absolutely.
I love the dill, and it's caterpillar food. So.
Okay, so some other things to keep in mind. A lot of my stuff in this garden actually did make it after the freeze. And you're seeing that this corner over here was plants that all made it. So beets that made it and are coming back strong. I'm going to be harvesting a lot of beets. I'm going to be harvesting beets for the farm to table dinner. I'm pretty sure we're going to be using those as well. Here's an interesting flower that I'm learning about. I think it's called the Laurencia, and it's got a very pretty flower on it as well. Those live through the freeze. This stalk flower lived through the freeze, and look at it. I grew this baby from seed. I love it so much. It's my best friend. I cannot wait until I start growing so many of these that I can put them in all of your flower arrangements on Easter Sunday next year. Okay, look, my cucumbers are starting to come on. This beautiful Savoy cabbage head is really starting to put on. I'm gonna have some beautiful cabbage before too long. I wasn't certain whether it would happen yet, but I was hopeful. And look at my little snapdragon. It's gonna pop this week. I just know it. And when it pops, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have the most beautiful flower arrangements. Look at this mama. She came back after the freeze. Isn't she gorgeous? Oh my goodness. Can you even imagine the beauty that's coming out of this particular plant? I love it so much. Look at this sorrel. Lived through the freeze as well. Just a bloody dock sorrel. Got the red vein in it. Really delicious, healthy, and good and beautiful in your salads. I'll be topping off some of my salad mix for Sunday right there with some of that beautiful stuff. And here's some more cilantro that's going to seed. Look at this. I've got zinnia flowers that are coming back. I had zinnias in this garden back in the original in the summer, last summer. And I took the seeds and I just started popping them in the ground. And I've got zinnia plants coming up a little bit of everywhere. Of course, my kale is still doing really well and strong. Yesterday, I harvested some broccoli, and I'll show you some cauliflower as well that we harvested too, coming out of this garden. Now, this is my calendula plant that lived through the freeze. It is starting to put on its flowers. I harvested an edible flower for someone yesterday. I'm going to go ahead and leave this one on because you can see that it's starting to create some nice seeds to dry out. So I can pop that out later on and use it for seeds. You can see that my squash are starting to really take off. No powdery mildew. Now, something to keep in mind, everyone, don't forget that we have to make sure that we go back in with our little paintbrushes and help pollinate our squash this year. I think we're gonna have a real serious issue with pollinators this year, so that's something that you're gonna have to do really, be really cautious of and really consider doing. It's really not a big deal. You just take a little paintbrush, something from your kids' area, an old paintbrush, and then you just take it around and you go to the big, beautiful male flowers and kind of the closed up female flowers, diddle them away, and then you're gonna have some squash in the future. So be sure to do that. Now let's walk over. I've got a few things going on over here. Something to note. This is a, this cauliflower was actually already in here in the freeze. It was just really young. And if they aren't really established, if they weren't already really established by the time our temperatures start to stay in the 70s, then you're gonna have this maturing issue. Now, what I have decided to do is leave these in here because I have never let a cauliflower I've never let a cauliflower become a broccoli before. So.
Hey, they have the right to do it if they want to.
They have to do it. Free will for all. I'm gonna let it go to seed because I've never let a cauliflower go to seed. So I'm gonna let it go to seed. And look at my onions, and I've got carrots that I'm gonna pop out. I'm gonna pop out a couple of carrots today to throw on my beautiful salad as well. Look, I have celery. I'm so excited about my celery. I'm gonna have a lot of celery coming up very soon. Okay, plants that are growing, just continue to keep planting seeds as often as you can. We've got plenty months to plant plenty more seeds. Okay, here's some more excitement. Reseeding of its own. Do you see where the dill kind of reseeded its own? I've got carrots coming up over here. This is zinnia. Just wait until this area takes off with its flowers. It's going to be miraculous. It's going to be so beautiful. I'm so excited. This Savoy cabbage, I'm so excited because I've got so many of them and they're just so beautiful. And I keep popping in even any more celery that I have just to see what happens with it. The lavender that lived is still doing really well, and I've got more lavender that I planted by seed doing really well. I've mentioned to you guys this lyre leaf sage that can be thrown in your salads. Look at the pretty purple flowers it's putting on. We talked about those last week, all right? Okay, coming this way. Some pretty cabbage that's starting to head. This is going to be one of those kind of a smaller, tighter cabbage that goes into a point. I don't know what the variety specifically is called. This plant right here is a Suriname cherry, and it's got green on it again, so it's starting to come back. Now this one, hey friend, my little would-be pollinator over there. One thing I have learned is that those guys don't pollinate your squash. So you got to pollinate your own no matter how many would-bees you have. That's not going to make it. So, but
you're going to have to cut that all the way down to the ground.
Well, yeah. Cut it down to the root stock just so the root can grow in there. But look at this. Because I was playing with transplanting last year, I've got 2 to replace it with.
Oh, wonderful.
I just cut these limbs off of the original one, not knowing we were going to have a freeze that was going to kill everything this year, and I've got 2 more. So this is another really, really good reason to make transplants. And if you don't use them, you can always put them in a seed swap, plant swap with your friends the next time. But I'm glad to have one because I can replant it right there before I leave. And leave this land better than I found it, as usual. Look at the growth that's happening here. Lots of little things popping up. Now, this didn't pop up by seed. I put this here, but why not? I've got plants that need to go in the ground and ground that needs to be covered, so I'm putting things in the ground. Okay, I took my cauliflower from right here yesterday. It was planted there before the freeze. That was actually a cheddar cauliflower. Go ahead, did you have a thought?
Point again.
Yes, it's just, this is what was there. It was this. I cut the entire thing off, and then Joe made a beautiful recipe yesterday, and he amped it up with our particular style. Tell us a little bit about that recipe you made.
Absolutely not. You'll hear about it on Dinner Table Talks in the very near future.
Darn it, it was so good, y'all.
It's broccoli,
cauliflower,
eggs, cheese, and some of your fresh herbs.
Y'all, I'm not even kidding. I don't know if it was the magical recipe or the magic that Joe put on it or the shifts that he made in the recipe or the fact that that broccoli and cauliflower had lived through a freeze, and it was amazing. So I can't wait for you guys to hear about it on the podcast that launches tomorrow morning. All right, that's a lot of stuff I just showed you today. A lot of beautiful flowers I showed off. Joe, give them a little swoop around here. Look, there's another cauliflower I'm letting go to seed over there. Ooh, look at that little guy. I'm gonna squish him. You see him? That's a cucumber beetle. And me and him are not friends, so we're just gonna squish him. All right, there you go. That's it. Look at the beauty of it. I hope you have the most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Sunday celebrating with your family. I love you all, and I will see you next week. Have a blessed day.